My actions honor my vision. My vision reflects my values. My brotherhood shares my mission. Welcome to the Code of Character. Welcome to the Code of Character podcast. My name is Justin Bailey. I am the host and founder of Code of Character. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether it's your first time with us or you've been with us from the beginning. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate your feedback. Thank you for the emails. It really is the fuel that just keeps this thing going. So thank you so much for that. I'm excited about today's episode. I have my buddy Len Wright back on the podcast for a second time. If you didn't catch his episode, the first, go back, check it out. He is an amazing man, full of insight and always extremely interesting, and he will have you deep in thought, I promise you. If you have not joined our Facebook group, it is a closed men's Facebook group. Check us out. Go look on, just type in Code of Character on the search bar there on Facebook. We will pop up, join the group, answer a couple questions, and dive right into there with a bunch of other men who are just trying to help each other through life. We're answering questions, giving advice. We are just sharing knowledge, interesting articles, whatever it might be to help each other on this road, trying to live a life of character, try to be better men every single day and support one another in that endeavor. If you're looking for something a little bit more, if you're looking to really grow in 2019, expand your mind, and learn a bunch and just become a better man, a better human in the process, and hang out with a bunch of really cool guys. I want to just tell you, we have a mastermind called The Code. If you're interested in learning about that, shoot me an email. We'll get on the phone. We'll decide if it's a right fit for you and for us. You can email me at justin@codeofcharacter.com, or you can shoot me a message on Facebook. That's all I got for today as far as announcements. I do want to just say that my man Len Wright is about to blow your mind. So this is a little bit longer than normal, but it was worth it because Len just he goes deep on some topics. He talks about what truth is. He talks about why we should look at every situation from different perspectives and where that leads us to in our quest for truth, and how this all can lead to war or peace, what we decide, and how it all starts inside of us. Here's my man, Len Wright. Mr. Len Wright, welcome back to the Code of Character podcast. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing awesome. I'm excited at the minds we're going to blow today.
I'm excited to have you. I'm going to tell the audience, Len and I were talking for about 20 minutes before, and I could have talked another couple hours with this man. But if you get lost at any point in this episode here, go back and listen to the first one. It might give you a little footing. Len said he's a little cautious. He doesn't want to go too deep, but I got a feeling he could probably go deep on you. So if you go check that first one out, you might have a little better basis going forward. But welcome back, my friend. I'm glad to talk to you.
Oh yeah, this has been a long time coming. The last one was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was sometime last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've all evolved, and yeah, I will try to keep it on a basis of still fun and not cricket land. And we definitely will blow some minds out today. We'll definitely expand people's thinking.
Well, the cool thing I know with you is if you do leave me speechless and you see that on my face, I know you're just going to keep going, so nobody will notice.
Yeah. It's the other people listening that I get concerned myself about. But yeah, it's hard not to go deep when you love the subject so much.
Right on.
You know, I've lived it. I've basically devoted my whole life to this subject of why we do what we do. What is this thing we call thinking, and why are we here? You know, all those life mystery things.
Yeah, no doubt. And since we have last talked, Len, you released a book, and it's I don't want to mistitle it, The Little Book of Inner Growth. Is that right?
You betcha. Yeah.
Okay. So we actually went through the book in one of the months last year in our mastermind inside the Code, and you came on and had an incredible hour or so with the gentleman in the group. It was fantastic. But man, this book it's short. I don't know, 50 pages or something like that, but it is required reading, man. I wish I would have had this when I was 10, 20, 30 years ago. Well, I don't know. I've been a little young.
I do too.
But
I do too. I wish that I had that a long time ago too. It's taken a concentrated effort the last 30 years, but my whole life really to be able to come to the understandings. You know, things are quickening though, because they're coalescing a lot faster. You can actually pick up that book and find out what it took me the last 3 decades to be able to find out.
Yeah. Can you tell me just what does inner growth mean to you when you say that?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I just keep hearing why we're here.
Yeah.
I mean, we started the last 20-minute conversation on that is really, I mean, everybody talks about purpose, but really, I believe just from the last 3 decades of looking at what everybody has in common, every person who's ever lived has one thing in common, not many, but one thing in common. Nobody's ever been able to get out of that. And nobody's been on the record saying, well, this person lived this whole life without challenges, without something that they went through that almost broke them, something that they went through, the ups and downs of life, we call it, those experiences that rock us. And if that's an important point, because if nobody has ever beaten that, nobody recorded, then it must be important for us. It must be something that is required, if you will. And that's what I've been finding. And so really it's turned my work a lot in that time period to study challenges, what they are.
I think it's interesting you use the word purpose there, because I think that when we address the word purpose, there's almost an external piece to it. I know a lot of time it does require self-reflection, but there's almost, when you think about someone's perfect purpose, it means they're doing something external to themselves. And with this book and with all the things that you talk about, your really focuses on the innerness.
Well, and it's what is first, seek first that kingdom, and all else will be added to you. That inner kingdom is where we're supposed to know first. As Socrates said, know thyself. It's a skipped thing, and it's why we suffer more than we need to as humans. I'm going to enter a UFC fight, and I haven't trained at all. I haven't even walked into a dojo. I have no idea how to fight, really. I don't even really know what it is. And I'm going to walk into this. What's going to happen to me? I'm going to get beaten up pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, isn't that what people are in life? I have, as a member of society, I have no real idea what thinking is. I have no clue as to what feeling good about sitting with myself, just with myself in silence is. I'm not understanding everything, and I'm living life on this outside, spending my potential every day that's finite on things that I have to let go of anyhow in my life, sooner or later. Cars, relationships, houses, money, everything else. All of that, I'm just renting. None of it I get to take with me, whatever you want to, not to go into that subject, but I've got to let go of it. The nice, beautiful car that I have right now that I'm identified with, that is everything to me, and my value is going to decay. It's going to rust. It's maybe going to get smashed up someday. It's going to lose value. And for someday, I'm either going to die and leave it, and it gets left or sold or whatever, or some way I'm going to sell it, or it's going to leave me some way. It's not really mine. And yet we're pouring our complete potential into all this stuff so that we can have it just for a little bit and feel good. And that's where the lack of fulfillment is, because what we're meant to do is we're meant to first take ourselves as our biggest study, our biggest passion, our biggest undertaking, understanding who we are, what we are. Why is it that this challenge rocks me? Why is it that this triggers me? What is it about this that really bothers me? Why do I like this? What do I believe about this? All of this clay is meant for us to be able to mold or hone our better selves through it and grow, to get back to your meaning. That is the purpose. And it's the reason why every single person has experiences that are tailored, created, if you will, directly for them. You, Justin, won't have the same concerns in life, worries that come up, experiences that rock you, private things that you're holding on to. You have your own. You and I, although we're great brothers and everything, we won't match that. Why? When you and I hang out together, why isn't our experiences exactly the same? Our perceptions are different. The meanings we place on everything, the beliefs we have, they're all individual. We're meant to grow through. So we're given the playground, the obstacle course, so that we can move through it to get stronger.
So you mentioned perceptions, Len, and what I see right now a lot is people having some worthy conversations, some non-worthy conversations, but we're all coming at them with very different experience sets, very different perceptions. But I feel like there's so many people aren't either respective of that or aware of that. I can't imagine they're not aware.
Not tolerant.
So how do we, I guess I feel like when you were speaking right then, I thought, man, this understanding of what he's talking about could really help our communication. You know, if you and I get together and we're, understanding of these perspectives, then when we hit a disagreement point, there can be a mutual understanding and a mutual respect of those past experiences and past perspectives. But but as a society, I feel like we're going the other way with it when we have all the tools in the year 2019 to be so much more aware than we are of the things that you're speaking on.
Well, and part of that becomes, I've said it before, and I have it on my site and everything else, become a walking question mark. That's a motto that I endeavored to live my life by. And it is because of the fact of what you're talking about. We're taught that I don't know is a bad thing. If you don't know, you're going to fail. You got to know. And we grow up in our educational systems, our governments, that teach us that as well, because if we haven't memorized a specific fact, whether it's alternative or not, is we're stupid, we're dumb, we're not as smart. It is actually the opposite. What they don't understand about thinking is that once you say, even to yourself, I know about this, your mind goes, well, okay, there's no more need to learn. You know it. Great. Move on to other things. So you stop learning about it. Your whole possibilities when you don't know about something is everything. Could be every possibility. So you see the whole picture. As soon as I say, oh no, I believe this, all my focus goes, and I now only see the possibilities that align with that perception. So I close myself off. I make myself dumber. And that's what everybody's doing. They're going, and I don't want to go into specific, big issues in life, but whatever issue it is, you have one side going, I'm right because this is the way it is. And the other side going, well, I'm right because this is the way it is. And they can't see each other because they're so focused on believing the belief that they have. Beliefs are arbitrary. Beliefs really are arbitrary because had you believed the same thing as when you were 10 years old?
I don't believe the same thing as I believed yesterday.
Right on. That's exactly it. And realizing that from a conscious person's perspective, then why would you fight over belief? If they can change so quickly, maybe you're wrong. Just because you believe it means absolutely nothing. I can change somebody's belief if they're willing to go along on the ride with me like that. We need to learn to be tolerant by suspending our firm, fighting beliefs, adamant beliefs, into a situation where, you know what? Maybe I don't know all. Maybe there's something else that I'm not aware of yet. So I'm not going to say I'm for this or I'm against this. I'm going to sit in the middle so that I can see all of it. And I can make the decisions that are for the highest good. Because if I'm this way or if I'm this way, I can't make decisions for everybody.
So what about when people talk about core beliefs? Do you not find a value in having a set of core beliefs to kind of guide you through life?
But I'm not as serious about them. See, that's the thing, right? I mean, everybody has to have beliefs, right? I believe if I grab my cup really fast, I'm going to spill it. Well, that's a good belief to have, right? Because it stops me from burning myself and making a mess. But at the same time, I'll use the term of Guy Finley, who said this a long time ago. I love this. One of my favorite authors. It's great to be skeptical about something, but just be as skeptical about why you're being skeptical.
Oh, wow.
So it's questioning your beliefs rather than I'm right. The I'm right is what causes the fight.
Yeah.
It's a great quote. But if you don't believe you're right, how can you fight with somebody? And that's the way to peace. What we're doing right now is everybody is so vocal. You know, Justin, one of the biggest obstacles or challenges I have to be able to bring clients with me and help people is the fact that they, as much as their life may be in a train wreck, they're still willing to say, no, I know what I'm doing. Oh, things are pretty good. That's our stupidity. That's our ignorance. We're ignoring reality. Reality is telling us we don't know what we are doing. We keep banging in. I can't understand why this experience is happening to me. And I have a misunderstanding about life. If all of us were just able to say that and dump the beliefs, boom, we'd be learning machines. But you see, our learning has to go through filters of, well, okay, but I have this belief about this thing in life. And I have a belief in this thing in life, and life means this to me. And well, now you've cut out all the other stuff. You're still making a perimeter for that belief. The walking question mark goes, look, I feel this way right now about it, but this feeling is coming from the experiences I've had, which are this and this and this maybe. But that does not necessarily mean that I'm in the right, because I haven't had all experiences. If I had maybe had those people that are supposedly against me, maybe if I had their lives, lived their experiences with their belief systems, maybe I'd be over there. So instead of going back and forth, going, I'm right, do my way, I do my, like little children, we need to grow up and go, let's come together. Let's see, why is it that you believe this? And be open to set beliefs aside so that there can be a tolerance, a respect going both ways. There's just one more thing really quick. There's a book called The Kabbalion, and it has a saying in it that I say probably every day. And all truths are but half truths. And if you really, really, really develop that in your mind as a belief, it can serve you well, because you realize maybe I only know half the truth here. I worked for the Canadian government at a very high level for a while, going back in 2005, 2006. And all I'm going to say is, a lot of the things I thought that weren't possible before, that job changed my mind. I had a lot of experiences that were just like, what? Told one thing, another thing in reality happened behind the scenes. And I learned that when you fight for something, you better be damn sure you know every single thing about it, and you can feel every perspective, because you may be in the wrong. As much as you feel you're in the right, you may be in the wrong, or you may not have all the information. And
that's an interesting lead in here, Len, because I want to ask you about one of the things you write about in your book is you say you can't resist and grow at the same time. I believe I got that right.
Yeah.
And can you speak on that, and specifically in how that relates to, you know, the growth that we sometimes get through struggles and overcoming obstacles, things like that. And so explain exactly what you mean by that, and if you can interrelate it there to those concepts.
Well, and it's really what I was saying, because when you believe something wholeheartedly, this is my political party, this is the right, then in a form you're in resistance against everything else.
Okay.
So your growth for everything else stops. You stop your growth because you're in resistance. Oh, now that's wrong. I don't want that. So it's true, because when you're not wanting something, okay, if I'm learning a certain type of math and I'm sitting there as a student, teacher's up there trying to, and this is what I did in school, right? Growing up, I didn't know. And so all I did was, I hate being here. I don't want to be here. I don't like this. I don't enjoy this. I don't want to do this. I want to be over here in my imagination. I want to be here. I want to be doing this, doing that. I wasn't present at all. I got terrible grades, and I couldn't figure out that if I instead, I did that to my jobs too in early 20s. If I would have instead learned to like portions of it, acceptance, my learning would have happened way better. My grades would have shot up. It's the same as what I'm talking about. When you're resisting any idea,
yeah,
you cannot, expand and close at the same time. Resistance is a closing. It's a friction. It's an I don't want, I don't, whatever the I don't is. I don't want that in my country. I don't want that in my household. I don't want you to do that. I don't want this. That closes your world. Another one, guy's getting a lot of airtime here for his quotes, but you live in a room the size of your understanding. The more you understand what's really going on, the more your whole world, your room expands. The more you think you know, the more it decreases.
So how do we, one of the things, as you were talking earlier, I just am thinking about this, the culture that we live in is that obsessed with materialism.
Yep.
Right. And it's just, we all fall into it. Just the more stuff. We're not even talking about rich. I mean, I'm not rich, but you just accumulate stuff, right? And you don't even know why you're getting stuff. And even the people who are kind of, I consider myself somewhat aware of the marketing around me, right? But it's still that chasing of things. Yeah. How do we, I guess, fight that, overcome that, move past that in a
accept
world
that? It's fighting is actually the energy that actually creates it. Right? Because
I knew you were going to say that. As soon as I said it, I was like, wrong word choice.
Because no, it's a great word choice because it really is. I mean, it's true. It's because of the fact that I'm not good enough just on my own with what I have. And here's the thing. I'm not getting the sensations in my life. I'm not giving them to myself. I'm not tapped into them. I have to get them from outside sources. I have to go buy that thing so that I feel good for X amount of time. And then I have to go do something else to be able to feel good. This is no different than an addiction.
Yes. Because
we're dealing with chemicals. Look, when you take cocaine, it releases massive amounts of dopamine as well as other chemicals in your system. That's why you get high. Not because of the cocaine. The cocaine is a precursor. That's why placebos work. You are a chemical bar and you are your own bartender. Your thoughts then kick off a biochemical response of chemicals in your body. The chemicals then create the emotion. That's why you feel so adamant about something, because the chemicals and the thought have matched in your system, and that's the scenario that you're left with.
I was talking to somebody recently about that, about how I said the term "trick your mind." I'm interested in how to trick your mind, and what I meant by that was, I got some pushback on that terminology, but what I meant by that is, if placebos work in some percentage of time. I don't know what the percentage is, but they work, right?
It's really good.
So there is times when you believe that you're better and you get better. Right. Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, so how do we harness that? And how do we use that to our advantage? I don't know that works when you're aware that it's a placebo.
It can still.
Do you know where I'm going with that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Because see, what we're dealing with this whole show is the same thing. It's beliefs. Because that's what makes a placebo work, is the belief, which is the thought, the architecture for the thought. Okay, so I believe I'm a healthy person. I've got a great immune system. You'll hear some people, they're the ones that don't cast spells. Because the belief then has to set in effect is the cause for the effect, which is the reality that you experience. So with a strong enough belief, what's the faith the size of a mustard seed moves mountains? Right? They're talking about belief in oneself, belief in that thing. If you have absolute full belief, it tends to manifest itself. And I mean, this is a big subject because it is backed by science. It's not this woo-woo. I don't do anything woo-woo, although I sound sometimes woo-woo. Everything I do is backed by results in science. See, again, a belief is an electromagnetic occurrence within the body that sets off that biochemical response of whether it's a worry or some sort of, I'm not good enough, I'm not, okay, now you're working yourself, now you're frustrated. Secretion of acid is in your body, cortisol, adrenaline. Okay, there's others as well. That acid actually slows your productivity and your response rate, makes you less effective, makes, now listen to this, the reality happen of fearful, because you're less productive. You're already shaky. You're already tight. You're in your worst situation to deal with whatever happens. What would happen if Bruce Lee was tight in a fight? Be like water. And you do that by creating the scenario for that. So I'm taking it over in life again. We're still dealing with the question mark. The question mark alleviates the resistance in the experience. So
say that one more time. The question mark
alleviates the resistance in your experience.
Okay.
So as an example, I'm coming into an experience. Oh, I see something I don't want to see in my experience. It rocks me somehow. I don't want this. If I go forward with I don't want and start fighting it, I'm increasing that resistance. It has to stay with me more.
Yeah,
it sticks to me.
Reminds me like of an investigation. If you're investigating something, in using the methodology you're supposed to be using, there's no resistance in that. You're following the evidence and it leads you right to it. As to where if you're starting with already the solution, then there's tension whenever that evidence comes and you throw it out or whatever, right?
You're trying to prove it.
Right.
It's going against what you already want. This is where I'm getting at, right? Your expectation of this is how it should be. That investigator couldn't possibly investigate to his best potential, because as they're going through the investigation, they've got the mind on the goal that they're going at. So everything they look at, everything they see, they're going to try to match it and compare it to that. Their brain's going to pick that up and go, well, everything else we don't need to pay attention to. Just the points that make that happen. See, have you ever, I call it yellow car syndrome. I think I mentioned it before, but you're driving normal, it's fine. You buy a yellow car and all of a sudden there's all these yellow cars
right
on the road. What the heck? I didn't see them before. Were they just showing up now? Did everybody go out on the same day and buy yellow cars? No, they were there before. But out of 400 billion bits of information coming into you at every second, okay, you have to filter them out. Your brain has to have a mechanism, an architecture to be able to filter out and go, not that, not that, not that, oh, that, okay, that's what he's interested in. Okay, that fits in his belief structure. That doesn't. And this process is going on all the time. The more adamant beliefs you have, the more this just goes, here's your little 2 or 3 beliefs.
So how do we move past this judgmental persona that we grow up with? I think most people do, and get into that area where we are that question mark and we are that openness. Because I've been kind of myself been trying to do this for a couple of years now or whatever, and I still don't feel like I'm where I want to be. I almost said should.
You never will.
That's a judgment.
You never will. You never will. It's part of the honing process that we have, right? It's part of the way that the structure that we're growing in. Okay, so we're going to have these things come up. I mean, that's why, to go back biblical again, that's why Jesus on the cross, on that, crucifixion at the last little bit, he had doubt, right? It was, Father, Father, why have you forsaken me? It was because of the facts, like seeing, hey, look, he's right at the end. He's supposed to be this perfect, he fell. You do. You're going to fall. You're going to fall when you think you know it. So it's about taking pressure off of ourselves. We don't have to know it. We can walk in with a complete, Eckhart Tolle, I heard when he goes someplace, okay, and it's not to build anybody up. I'm just saying I thought this was really cool how he did it. It fits right in line with what we're talking about. When he goes and visits a tourist thing, when it's a chapel or cathedral, he's going to visit and it's like, oh, cool. He will go visit the first time without reading anything about it, without knowing anything about it, without talking to anybody, just cold, and he'll take the tour. Then think about it, everything else. The next day he goes, but he reads about it first. And the third day he'll go and he'll talk to friends and he'll talk to people with it and everything else. And he gets 3 separate experiences, which leads him to a broader range of understanding about the whole experience to begin with. He gets more out of that way. What we're trying to do is constantly cram all this knowing in so that we know, so that we're a success. Yay, we're winning. And it's leading to this unfulfillment outside. It's not about that. It's about, where did the learning happen? Where was the time in that experience for you to contemplate and learn through it? If you get to the answer and you know it already, where's the learning? There's no room for that, right? So we're talking about tolerance, and we're talking about quite a few things that actually are ingredients in that tolerance. The chemicals in our body, everything, all this happens because it's an understanding of who we are as humans. Electromagnetic experiences that have a biochemical response to everything that is going on in their environment, and that at the same time has an imagination that has the power to be able to create the reality. It's magnificent. Why would we not want that as the first primary thing that we learn about, study, are passionate about? We are it. And so when we realize the conflicts are happening because we're constantly thinking we know, the way to get around that, like you asked, is to start being skeptical about ourselves, not taking ourselves too seriously all the time, not watching where we're being validated in our outside world by thinking we know everything, by the urge that comes up in us where we have to talk about it, we have to tell what we know. All these things within us are independent issues we need to deal with as humans, but as a collective consciousness, you can see how it's affecting our world. How would we ever get to peace without each and every individual one of us get to peace? How would a body be fully diseased and die if not every cell died? We're a cell in the organism, right? And so we're all a part of that. By us finding peace within us, knowing ourselves, we give permission and example for more, and we continue growing that. Once all of us as little cells in our full body, the universe, is at peace, there's no reason to fight. There's no reason to have to know things. I want to learn from you. What do you think? What's your perspective? How did you come to that? And then I grow. I still may not believe what you say, but I'm not against you for believing it. You're just as wrong as I am. Both are half-truths. Both, let's meet in 10 years and see if we still feel the same way. And that's the way of acceptance versus...
I don't know if it's social media or if it's just the way things are going, but do you think that we're moving toward that as a society, as individuals, or not? I mean, we should.
I've got more than one answer for that.
We should be closer than we were 500 years ago. I don't know.
We should be. And you know, when you get a new remote control, or you get a new gadget, new tech, and for the first little while, you can't figure it out, but it's still really cool. And you've got all this power that's in this thing. You just don't know how to unlock it all or use it yet.
Yeah.
And while you're learning, you're making mistakes and you're screwing the thing up. And oh no, I remember the first time my first computer, I erased everything on the computer and I was freaking right out. Well, that was a long time ago. And I just turned it on and off, and turned it off and on again, and everything came back.
There you go.
Oh, so that's the thing, is if we're in that realm of understanding, these aren't mistakes we're making. These aren't failures. These aren't things against us. We're all in a learning game. Let's learn from each other. Let's help each other learn. And let's become open to learning ourselves, because as I just said, your idea and my idea may both be wrong in 10 years. We may both feel differently. So what if our adamant beliefs back then at 10 years ago, what if people died for them? We feel differently now. What was it all for? It's like the fights that we get into, conflicts with people we love every once in a while. And when that happens, we're left with regret after. We're left with regret from what we said, what we did, how we did it. because we went through it asleep. We were only thinking of ourselves, selfish selves, ego. And that's really what's happening right now. We're in a time period where we're figuring out our consciousness. This new gadget that we have, they didn't even understand it, or they didn't even know how to explain it 500 years ago the way we do now. Things are growing. We know about oxytocin now. Oxytocin is what they call a happy drug. We're talking about chemicals in the body. I talked about ones that create acid in the body, but there are also ones that actually create the alkaline state, create good feelings, like oxytocin. And it's when we hug somebody for longer than 17 seconds, or when we laugh, really seriously laugh, not like fake laugh, we get dosed with this heavy drug that makes us feel wonderful. So all of getting to know ourselves is really about the esoteric law of doing no harm. Doing no harm to ourselves first. And thus, if we do that, we'll have no interest in doing harm to anybody else, anything else, including the environment, including hurting our brother and sister here on this earth because they think differently than us. If we are whole inside with our love, there's no way that we can be in conflict of another because of their beliefs. It's because we're not whole inside. We're all messed up, mama. We're in a state of misinformation.
So where does the role of being a defender play into that, Len? Because there's always going to be conflict between some parties, right? And whether you're talking about from an individual level or from a nation state level, I mean, there is value in defending the defenseless.
This is a huge subject. This is
you got another hour?
I'm saying like days long, because there's no, this is what I'm talking about again. There's no definitive yes or no for that, because no matter what is done, the law of cause and effect, or karma, same thing, is enacted. So the people that defend, they have to actually have something in their life that they need to defend against themselves. It has to come. That's what an eye for an eye means. Not vengeance, but cause and effect.
Yeah.
If you hurt another, you will in your life some way have to be hurt. It's just, you kill anything else, something you love gets killed, taken away from you. You have the pain that you caused the other thing. Thou shalt not kill. That's why. Because then you also have to have that pain and suffering in your life, right? Even if it's the point where I was talking to a client this past week about, people who, somebody freaked out on them and that type of idea. And I said, but you got to realize, don't you understand the pain they were already in to be able to freak out?
Wow.
That's karma. Instantly, you're seeing in their freak out the pain that they live in. Because you can't go 0-60. You can't if you're really at peace and really just happy, try to make the person mad really quickly, unless they're already fuming inside. Because if they're fuming inside, they're there quickly.
So when you react in that situation, you're not closing the loop. You're opening really a new cycle that will eventually come back around. I never thought of it that way. I always think of, the tension, let's say the one party freaked out and then the other party freaks out. That's the equal reaction, but it's not, because there was something before that triggered that.
Right.
It's going to be something coming back around.
And that's the thing. I mean, that's something that I had it took me a long time to learn, because, I was like, well, the person looks happy, the jerk in the bar that picking fights, and they look like they're having a great life, like they're, why, and I was the guy. I was the guy. That's the bully. That's okay. Let's go. Yeah. And so I was always into fighting. I was always into that kind of stuff because I was the defender. But it's funny, because as being the defender, you are also the bully. You play both parts at the same time, because the person that you're going up against, as we just mentioned, they're in pain. They wouldn't be doing what they're doing if they weren't, right? Ignorance is still pain. And so what you're doing is, would you, with a child freaking out, would you freak out on the child? No, because you understand they don't know any better.
Yeah.
Well, the person that's freaking out in front of you doesn't either, or they wouldn't be choosing that.
Yes.
So again, here's understanding and tolerance. The defense mechanism, it is a hard subject, because it's like, then people go to the extreme and go, well, what? You can't just, there will always be somebody that, okay, true, but we're not talking about the somebody yet. We're still on a point of understanding how conflict arises. Conflict is extreme resistance. If Buddha said, if somebody offers you a gift and you decline the gift, who does the gift belong to in the end? The giver. And that's with any kind of defense. You know, there's a short story. I'll make it really short. Eastern Asia, there was a big warlord. We go into every village. He was just terrible, just burn the village and torture the people. It was a horrible person, very, very horrible. And he went into this one village, and word came back to him that there was this one elderly man that was not in fear of him. Just bring me this man. And so they brought this little elderly man. And so you have this big warlord standing there, and this little frail little old man. And the warlord said to the little old man, why are you not in fear of me? Don't you know that in one fell swoop, in one thought, I could just wipe you out? The little man thought about it for a moment, contemplated it, looked at him and said, don't you know that with one thought, I could allow you to? Fear is the problem. Fear is the problem. And fear isn't out here. Fear is in here. It's the mind killer, it's been called. Fear is the problem, because if you have absolutely no fear, you're going to be dealing different with the person. Now, fear comes in all respects, because if you're in fear as an example of your belief being wrong, you're still going to attack the other person. So fear is behind it all.
Len, what's a way that somebody can overcome a fear they have?
Well, in that way, it is still questioning. It's here's an example. I'll give you an exercise that I give some of my clients. It's really useful. So I suggest everybody do this. They can do it wherever they are, whenever. Life will give you the fodder, the experience for it. But you've heard the expression, walk a mile in their shoes.
Sure.
It's similar to that, in that, what I want you to do is take an experience that you have in life. It could be what you call good, what you call bad, doesn't really matter. Okay. And with that experience, I want you to, just write down or note how you feel about it. What's your perspective on it? What does that perspective make you feel? Okay. Then I want you to just, take a deep breath, clear your mind. And I want you to take somebody else that was in the experience. Anybody else. Could have been passerby, could have been somebody involved, and I want you to become them and see the experience through their eyes and their belief systems, their perspective. I want you to feel how it feels as them, as best as you can. Feel it and notice, and then back up. Take a deep breath, think about something else. Do that for about 5 different perspectives in the experience. And you'll notice with every perspective gives a different feeling to you and gives a different meaning as to what's going on. Which one's right then? Which one's the truth? I'll give you an example really quick. If you drive at home, there's a bad accident, tragic. The person's a fatality, okay? And there's 3 people that were watching the whole experience happen. The first person knew the person that was a fatality, okay? And they owed them so much money they would never be able to pay them back, in their world, in their view, okay? The next person, the second person, loved that person that died so much, was so close to them. Okay. The third person was having an affair with that person's spouse. The event was one event, right? It happened. But what's the meaning on the event? Because if you look at each one of those people, they're going to feel completely different about that person being gone. Truth be told, they're going to be feeling different about the event, how it happened. The first person's going to have a little, maybe just a little tweak inside going, phew,
some relief.
Back. The middle person is going to be grief-stricken. And the third person is going to, again, be like, this opens up more opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying moral right, wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm using it as an example or an allegory. whose perspective is the right one in that example?
All of them.
Whose truth? Right. So what if they started turning around and arguing about them? Which one was right? They're all right.
Right.
Because their way that their architecture of belief and who they were perceived the event happening. And this is why the question mark is so huge, because it stops you from putting meaning on things, experiences, beliefs that are too concrete, too solid. They're not, like Bruce Lee said, be like water. Be fluid. This is what I believe, but who knows, 5 years from now, I could totally something else. I'm hoping I'm going to grow. So I'm willing to leave anything behind. Whereas the person that goes, no, this is the way the world works. This is the way it has to work. This is the way it has to happen. Otherwise, it's taking this away from me. How's that person ever going to get towards peace inside? It's the opposite of peace is acceptance. So as soon as you leave room for least resistance, it's not being a washover or being pansy where it's like, I don't believe in anything. It's not about that. It's about taking yourself way too seriously and thinking that you're the be all end all.
For sure.
Like, seriously, it's what our world is fixated on. You'll have the person their whole life in real shambles. They have no idea about it, but they'll tell you, hey, I know what this is. I know this shouldn't be happening. But if you actually taught that person a lot of what real life was, like their experiences or lessons instead of things happening to them. I've had that one belief change people's lives completely. Stop beating themselves up and start living life.
For sure, yeah.
So the one belief absolutely changed everything. If they weren't open to that one belief, they wouldn't be open to the new life. We have to be completely, constantly reborn, because that's what life is. There's no permanence. Everything is in mid-change. Right as we're speaking, it's never not happening. So if we're so focused and being solid about anything in our life, that's it. We actually become a barrier to real life. We start living more of the illusion, wanting security. What security is there? We were just saying in that 20-minute talk we had before, we're on a marble that's hurling through space at thousands, if not millions of whatever is speed. What assurance do any of us have? The problem with it is people aren't good with what comes after, all this kind of stuff, so they don't want to look at what's real. They don't want to be, it's okay. They want the security.
I would submit that a lot of people aren't even good with who they are right now.
No, exactly.
Say, I'm going to get right tomorrow. I'm going to get right whatever. They're always got their kind of dipping in the deep end there. And yeah,
I just say dive in. There's nothing actually that can be lost that's worth anything. There's nothing that can be lost. I was raised in a very tight religious community that believed that everything could be lost at any time. And you have to hold on so tight to those beliefs because you're the only ones that are right. And it was interesting living that way till I was 26, but the pain is immense. Even if you see someone smiling and saying that, it's a constrictive to binding. It's resistance. As soon as you go, I'm willing to look at anything, it doesn't mean I have to believe it, doesn't mean I have to accept it. It's not a big deal. I'm confident in who I am. And then all of a sudden there's a flow to it. And you can start expanding. So it's, when we come right back to it, it's the point of, do you want to defend something that you may not be right about?
Right.
And so that little pause of, maybe I'm not right, allows the conscious gap of not reacting. Notice every single time a truth will set you free, right? A falsity will bind you. And so when the question mark in your life, your spouse comes up and they freak out, they're doing something, they're complaining, whatever it may be, and you get triggered by it. Why are they doing that way? Stop. No. What about her behavior, her choice, causes me to do that? Because it's not in her. It must be in me. The trigger was set off in me. And then we start going within. We start asking those questions. And it might not be the spouse. It might be the protester that's on the other side. What about them not believing what I believe comes up against me?
Right.
Now, I'm not saying you become a martyr and somebody comes over, tries to punch you and you go, okay, I don't mean that. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that kind of defense. I'm talking about the kind of defense that's emotional defense. It's a resistance inside to being that water, being fluid. It stops us learning. Become the open book. Can't be an open book if the pages are already filled with information.
What if that information is right? I'm joking. Just
right,
a joke.
Right for who? Right for who? Yeah. Those are the questions.
Written, it's filled up and I'm already right. I don't need any of your information, Len.
Those are the questions though, right? That you ask. It's like, okay, I believe this. Where did I get that belief from? Who sold it to me? It's really interesting, Justin, when we go back and start asking ourselves questions, I have this belief of low self-value about myself. Where did I get it? Where was I told that somehow I was less? And funny thing is, if you can actually go back to certain experiences when you were younger, usually, but wherever they are, the people that actually were saying those things to you, selling you that belief system, are not usually people who have their life straight at all.
Right.
They're usually the idiots. They're usually the bullies, the people that are the narcissists, the people that have the worst, and you would never ask them for their advice. You'd never go and pay them for their advice. So why are you accepting their advice on who you are? So the belief systems need to be examined, investigated, like you said.
For sure.
You can't investigate with a finality that you expect. The investigation really never ends. It just continues deeper and deeper within. You start asking yourself those types of questions inside. Where did I adopt this belief that I'm right here? And here's the big one. Okay, drum roll. This is the biggest question that I found helps with decisions, with everything of how we are, how we be in a situation. And it is, if everybody in the world believed as I did, acted as I did, would we be closer to peace? Would we be peaceable? What kind of world would we be living in? So as an example, if you get somebody that's one of those adamant people about whatever issue it is, and they're willing to even be a little violent, or they're willing to stand up and defend if they need to, well, the world is that. Where's our next war?
Right.
Measure it against peace. Measure it against love. When you're wanting to defend, you're measuring it against what you think you're going to lose. That's what creates the adrenaline.
Yeah, I was thinking about something recently too, Len. We're about out of time here,
Yeah.
but you brought that up, the war piece, and I, even though you could obviously the United States at least is at war in different places, but largely the people are not engaged in that war. It's a very small percentage of people who are out there. So I don't want to minimize that.
No, definitely. I'm not here judging that either. I don't.
Here's my point though, Len, is I feel like I was thinking about this the other day, that our nation has almost, because we're so far away from any war going on, we've turned on each other. And maybe this has gone on for a long time. I can only, observe what I've observed, but I'm thinking, man, we've really made enemies of our brothers and our sisters within our nation. It's almost like people are always seeking a war. It doesn't matter if there's an enemy, they're going to find one.
Do you know why? Because they're at war with themselves inside.
Yeah.
Remember I said you can only have peace by each individual having peace within themselves. They're not peaceable. You go to the store, go to the grocery store, and pretty much anywhere in the world, and look at the people that are shopping. Are they happy? Are they enjoying themselves? Or are they in a rush, can't wait to the next moment, and something isn't enough? That has to come out somewhere. And so when we have nations that are filled with individual cells that are diseased, the whole nation's going to be diseased.
Right.
So this knowing thyself isn't the woo-woo. It's actually the only thing, as to bring it right around, the only thing we're here for. It's our purpose to grow, to evolve, to get to the peace within ourselves. Because once we do that, then peace outwardly, it happens. Be the change you want to see in the world. Every guru, every teacher, all of them teach the same thing in different ways, but everything has to start from within you and then spread outward. So that's sort of, what we're talking about. It's a tolerance that we have, and we become the example. I want to say one more thing about what you said, and it's to do with the society and everything else. And it's actually a scripture you'll know well. Everybody will. And that's love thy neighbor. What's the next part?
As thyself.
Aren't we? That's why we're fighting. Because we're not getting along with ourselves inside. We don't love ourselves.
Right.
We don't think we're the image of anything, yet we are. Paracelsus said, to know thyself is to know the gods. We are far much more as humans, these electromagnetic beings, than we know ourselves to be. And until that we know ourselves to be more, we won't be more. So the more we hate ourselves, and depression and mental illness and getting down ourselves and lashing out at people, and that is
consuming everything we can in sight, no matter what it is.
Not caring about environment or anybody else, but only ourselves in the moment. That is our collective consciousness. So how do you change that? Change you.
Love it, man. Seek peace. I love it.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal idea. A few have had it before.
And Len, at the beginning, I think you said we were going to blow some minds, and I think you did that. And I appreciate it. Well, I'm going to plug your book, and then you can tell us what else you're doing out there in the world. It's a little book of inner growth, Len Wright. You can get it on Amazon. I'm not sure where else, but let us know where else we can connect with you, Len.
Yeah, and it's only $2.97 too. So,
I didn't mention that. Yeah, it's the best $3 book you'll ever get, and it's 50 pages. But it's really, really good. If you liked what Len had to say here, you're going to love that book.
Awesome, man. And otherwise, check out my site, www.zenlencoaching.com, zenlencoaching.com. There's other podcasts. This one will be put up when it's released and so forth. And there's a lot of free content on there. And then, if it feels right, if you get the urge, reach out. I love to have conversations with people that actually want more understanding in their life in this way. So, and the other thing is, practice what we say we preach.
Thank you for that reminder. I appreciate you, Len. Thanks for coming on again. And we will see you for round 3 in a little while at some point.
Yeah, you bet on it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Code of Character podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and share with your friends on social media. Actions, honor, vision.